PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Did you check the rules? We're going to be able to go without having the top to put down or anything else?
I read everything.
We got the visors so we don't get bugs in our teeth on the way.
I got helmets.
Okay. And we got the extra. You want the sidecar?
Do you really want me with my arms around your waist?
Oh, good idea. Sidecar.
Knowing how hard I hold on?
Attach the sidecar. Okay. We're all kitted out to head to the drive-in in our nice big scooter.
Yeah. This is not going to instill fear in anybody.
Beep, beep. Yeah, I know. It's all motorcycles this week as we look at outlaw biker films, review a few of them. We'll also have some big news breaking today and a little bit of few things of our usual summer fare, including a drive-in salute from coast to coast. All coming up this week, right here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Get on board and let's rev it up.
For Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer.
Good evening, folks, and a hearty welcome to our drive-in theater.
Cinema.
Drive-in summer. Summer.
My only question is where are we going to put the speaker? We're just going to have to leave it on the pole because it's not going to work.
Well, I'm not holding it. That's all
well, no,
I know.
but I mean, it doesn't fit on the handlebars.
You know, we should have got one of those things. You know how they have the GoPros on people's helmets? We should do like one of those for a speaker.
Well, we can just hook up the speaker. We got to do something. We can't use the car thing, and I don't want to rent a radio, so a good thing I packed the speaker in the backpack. Welcome to Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number 574. All through the summer, we are talking about drive-ins and drive-in fare and drive-in summer as drive-in summer continues. Mm-hmm. And exciting stuff, as always.
Yes.
How was your week, darling?
Long.
I know. We need this weekend.
Oh,
and it's going to be over too soon.
Yeah, it always is.
It always is. Except for when it's coming up on vacation time. But that doesn't come up till September. So it's like...
No. But we did get some good news this week, but we're going to make you wait till the end of the show for that.
Oh, we got that just today.
Yeah.
And everybody's probably heard it by now, but we can't resist bringing it up either.
I know. Well, we did get some other good news. I mean, with... The release of a new trailer for The Last Jedi, another new trailer, which, no, I haven't watched yet because I'm scared.
There's no new trailer. It's behind-the-scenes stuff.
Oh, I heard it was a trailer
No.
and behind-the-scenes stuff.
Oh, it might be
Well,
a trailer with behind-the-scenes stuff in it. I don't know, but I haven't watched it yet either. But they're just saying it's behind-the-scenes stuff.
All I know is I'm just like, I'm scared. I mean, I'm really looking forward to The Last Jedi.
You're really looking forward to Luke turning to the dark side.
You better not be looking forward to that, because you're going to be the one that's going to have to deal with
Yes,
this.
Rian Johnson, our beloved, one of our favorite directors, thanks to Brick. Please don't do that. It won't be worth it to me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I was going to say, you're going to have to deal with the shrieking, tear-sonted mess that will be me all the way home that night, you know.
You and Stacy.
Yeah. Stacy doesn't cry. Stacy gets angry.
Right, like she did last year.
Yeah, we established that with The Force Awakens. Oh my gosh.
Never seen her that pissed. Well, Han Solo is her hero.
I know, but wow. I was like... But between my own reaction, which was all sobbing and stuff, all I could feel coming off from her was nuclear rage. I mean, hi, Stacy. Anyway.
We're headed to the drive-in this week to check out some really interesting films. They were a typical drive-in fare in the late 60s and early 70s. Mm-hmm. So let's jump on the choppers and head into Microfocus on biker films. Subject Cinema Microfocus.
Okay.
You know something?
Yeah.
As a small child, I saw far too many of these films.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
When I was little...
As a small child, I saw none of them, so...
When I was a small child in the late 60s and early 70s, my stepfather was a huge biker film fan. So, whenever there'd be a biker film at the drive-in, we'd be there.
You poor thing.
Huh?
You poor thing.
Yeah, I was 4 to 7 during that area. And I didn't really pay attention to the movies. Good thing, because I wouldn't have got them anyway. And I remember my mom and my stepdad talking about things as they went on, and talking about the things that were going on in the film. Oh, excuse me. And I was just like, okay, it's noisy. Can I go to bed now? Can I go to sleep now? The outlaw biker film was the most popular.
Yes.
But the biker film started generally in the late 1950s in a lesser capacity than would later take off in the 60s and 70s.
Right. The whole idea... Now, first of all, when I started doing...
One quick thing before you start.
Yeah?
I do want to point out, we've had a discussion about biker films before, way back in the early days of Subject Cinema, and I'll have a link to the original show in this week's show notes. It was one of our most listened to shows on Mevio.
When we started doing the research for this show, and I started looking more into the whole background behind the whole biker movie, genre... was when I started doing actual research about the whole idea of motorcycle clubs and the whole thing that grew out of that, which were outlaw biker clubs. My whole thing was, what the hell is a motorcycle club? I was like,
it's a club of people that enjoy riding motorcycles.
I was just like, oh, they actually have clubs for this. Okay, I'm ignorant. And I just assumed that it was just a bunch of people that just would get together on the weekends and go ride motorcycles.
Well, that's what they did. They just called themselves a club.
I never realized there was structure to this stuff. That they have, club rules and president and treasurer and all this stuff like that. It's an actual organized thing. That blew my mind. I was like, wow, the more you know. The thing is, because of the whole idea of the motorcycle club, then after that you started having what they called outlaw biker clubs. These are clubs that didn't follow the guidelines of the traditional motorcycle clubs. This whole concept came about in the late 1940s, mostly on the West Coast, after the end of World War II. These were usually clubs that were formed by young men, possibly young men that didn't have father figures in their lives because their dads were off fighting World War II and stuff like that, And so you had these guys riding around on bikes, and they could get to be pretty large groups, I would say.
Actually, to be fair, for the real bikers to come along in the movies, their fathers were probably not fighting World War II, but Korean War.
That might be true.
For the age range.
Yeah. The first motorcycle film that really took off with people that was about the whole idea of a motorcycle gang, for lack of a better term, would be 1953's The Wild One. Obviously starring Marlon Brando. With his imagery in this film is incredibly iconic. As the character Johnny Strabler. What a lot of people may not know is that this film was based on a short story by a gentleman named Frank Rooney, a story called The Cyclist's Raid, which appeared in Harper's Magazine in 1951. It's considered to be the seminal biker film, and it also dealt a lot with the whole concept that you had these disaffected young people, mostly young men, who were out there just riding around, showing up in small towns, and not always causing problems at first, but eventually trouble always seemed to find these guys, simply because they didn't really seem to know what they wanted out of life, but they had a whole handbag full of aggression about the fact that they didn't seem to know what they wanted, but they were pissed off that they didn't have it. There's a specific, there's a specific scene in the film when a young woman asks Brando's character, "What are you rebelling against, Johnny?" And his answer is, "What do you got?" I think that's an extremely telling scene because I think that really fits the biker genre, especially further on down the road, where you've got the whole angry young men idea. You have these young men that feel like somehow, some way, life has passed them by. It's very interesting when you think about the fact that these are, for the most part, very, I wouldn't say terribly young men. They're not teenagers by any stretch of the imagination. For the most part, they're young men, I would say, right around 25 or so, maybe a little older, possibly a year or two younger. But they're right in that age range. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, they feel like life has somehow effed them over. Considering the fact that they were young white men in America, I don't see how any of them could feel that way.
No. Not all of them were white. There were gangs that had black members and Asian members in the time, but they were few and far between.
Yeah, there are films like that later on down the road, but I'm just saying in general at the time.
In the 50s, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are young white males. I'm not trying to start an argument. I'm not trying to get people pissed at me. But these are the people that would have been considered to have all the advantages at that time.
Yep.
And that sucks.
A lot of them were privileged, very privileged.
But that's, that is what it is. And for some reason, you get this group of young men who seem to look around and be like, I don't want whatever society has to offer me, I'm going to shove it away and be like, I'm angry. And if you honestly ask them why they're angry, they can't give you an answer.
It's the man.
The whole, what are you rebelling against? What have you got? It's kind of like, do you realize how incredibly ridiculous an answer that is? You're not rebelling against a society that you feel is oppressing you. You're not rebelling against, the fact that you can't be allowed to practice the religion you choose or who you love or anything like that.
You're basically just rebelling to be rebelling.
You're rebelling. So basically, you're being a 3-year-old child.
You're being a professional asshole.
No, you're being a 3-year-old petulant child in the body of a man wearing a leather jacket and chains and stuff like that, and being like, look at me, look how much of a badass I am.
True enough.
I realize that opinion may not be very popular, and I'm not saying that everybody that has been in a biker gang feels that way. Certainly not, But the whole idea that this for some reason people found this fascinating to watch on the screen. Mm-hmm. It created this enormous mystique, and it also resonated with a lot of people. It touched something in a lot of people that went to the movies, and it grew into this genre on its own, and then it grew into this subsection of the genre that, while I wouldn't say it exploded, but it did become quite popular, at least on the drive-in circuit and that kind of a thing.
The first, not generally acknowledged as the first biker film, although it really was 1965's Motorcycle from Russ Meyer.
The outlaw biker film.
The outlaw biker film. Well, this was basically a little cross between the outlaw and the little bit of just a straight biker film, which they had earlier in the 50s, where just bikes were involved, but they weren't really gangs or clubs or anything. Right. This was the one that really got people interested at first. It had an unknown cast at the time that included Meyer himself, along with Alex Rocco, Joseph Cellini, and a bunch of other people. Coleman Francis was in this film.
Yes. It also had something extremely interesting, and I'm kind of wondering if this is also the jump point for that stock character, and if it is, then shame on them for doing such a distasteful thing.
Stock character for what?
The fact that this film, Motorcycle, the leader of this gang, who are, destructive characters, is a gentleman who is a Vietnam veteran. And the whole...
It was also one of the first films to show a disabled Vietnam veteran, too. So.
Right. But the whole idea of these guys that came back from Vietnam and were dangerous and unstable and violent and all this stuff like that, this became a trope that would show up in films, over and over and over again, which I think is extremely distasteful and incredibly disrespectful to people that were just, doing what they were told to do and came back to a country that spat on them for it. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, that's just my opinion for what it's worth. Take it for what it is.
Yeah.
But I think that set a very bad example, in my opinion, for what it's worth.
The biker film really took off as AIP. Last week we talked about the beach party films. As their party films started to wane, they released a little known film at the time with Peter Fonda called The Wild Angels. Mm-hmm. The Wild Angels came out in 1966. It was one of the first films to also star the husband and wife team at that time of Bruce Dern and Diane Ladd, as well as singer Nancy Sinatra.
Yes.
The film was a huge hit, and just AIP suddenly shifted and was suddenly doing all biker films and no more beach films.
Which kind of, I think...
We'll have an in-depth look at that film a little bit later on in the show.
I think probably everybody was completely and utterly shocked that this film not only made its money back, but actually was, people went out to see it, and lots of people went out to see it.
It was one of the biggest grossing films of the year, which really amazed everybody.
It started this whole new genre. Now, instead of the biker film, where you had the whole idea that these guys are just cool and iconic and standing on their own kind of a thing, now you had the outlaw biker film.
Yeah.
Now, you have to understand that at the point in time when these films happened, it's my opinion that these films could not have happened at any other time in the history of American cinema except that decade.
Yeah, because
and specifically that time at that decade.
It worked because of the countercultural revolution.
Right.
Even though it predated that by a year. Mm-hmm. The countercultural revolution is generally agreed through scholars to have begun in the summer of 1967 with the Monterey Pop Festival, and it went on to, rock music, free love-ins, Woodstock, and all that would come later. This movie came out a year before Monterey Pop. So it's like it was predating what was happening among the youth and college-age kids in America.
Right.
You had movies before this that were doing, crazy stuff. That example you brought up last week, I can't remember the name of it, Blast Off Girls. Those were from the mid-'60s too, but they weren't quite completely counter-revolution yet either.
And they all, those films, and also the beach movies that we did last week, and a movie like Blast Off Girls, and the earlier biker films they lacked something that these films definitely pushed, and that was this underlying undercurrent of anger.
Right.
And with these films, that undercurrent was taken and pushed directly in the audience's face. I mean, the beach movies, there's no anger, but there is a rebellion attitude toward, because these kids are out on the beach.
Especially,
and
and especially with the Harvey Lembeck character.
Right. Well, that's a mockery.
It is, but it's still, he's supposed to be the Marlon Brando type of character.
Right. But what I'm going with the beach party films and the rebellion aspect is it was rebellion, but it wasn't rebellion in a violent way. It was rebellion in we're all about rock and roll and dancing and love and stuff like that. This was all F you, we're going to punch you in the face, we're going to tear down everything you've built up. But the interesting thing is that the nihilistic attitude in a lot of these films really shines through, especially in The Wild Angels, because you had this whole thing where you had this attitude of these characters where their whole attitude is, we're going to destroy everything the previous generation holds dear. Everything that the previous generation holds up, we're going to tear down. But they don't have a backup plan. They're not like, we're going to tear things down and build something up that's better or different or even supports us. We're just going to build it down and then we're going to burn it up.
And we're going to party.
Yeah. It's the whole, some men just want to watch the whole world burn.
Right. From 1966 to 1971, biker films were taking over many years. A lot of them became major hits. And not just Wild Angels, but also a film called The Born Losers, the biker movie The Hellcats, which was a woman bicycle gang, which that has been misty, has it not?
Yes.
Was a hit. The Rebel Rousers, Wild Rebels, and then they got a little bit more into the culture, and started to get the respect of the film critics for some of their stuff. They started attracting bigger talent, not just to the acting, but to other things. The first memory I have of a musical connection to a biker film as a child was that who was then a country superstar, Tammy Wynette, did the theme song from Run, Angel Run, which was one of the biggest hits of 1969. It was like the 7th biggest hit of the year. I remember the movie was obtuse and boring to a 6-year-old.
Well, yeah.
But I loved that song. I loved the movie because of that song. And that is when other acts started doing bigger, and they started attracting more and more musical names to do title themes, and even a few of them had appeared in some of these. So that also helped it along, helped sustain it. And it also helped, as you said, the nihilistic attitude also became a focal point for these films because of what was going on overseas at that particular time, the Vietnam War. This was an anti-Vietnam movement. And, in the long run, the bikers had the right idea when it came to Vietnam.
Well, they did, yeah, but a lot of other people had the same idea about what was going on in Vietnam, and they weren't being like, oh, well, we're angry about Vietnam, so we're going to burn down your store. We're going to smash up your town because we're angry about Vietnam. You had people that were out there peacefully protesting Vietnam and stuff like that, and that probably did more good for people realizing, this is a bad idea than a bunch of, a-holes getting drunk and tearing up somebody's town. The Born Losers, which came out in 1967, also has a very large cultural impact in that was the film that introduced a character from the 60s and 70s. There's a very seminal character, Tom Laughlin's Billy Jack.
Which he had to do as the Born Losers. He was unable to try and get the financing for the movie he'd written with the Billy Jack character, which was ended up being called Billy Jack when he did get the financing.
Mm-hmm.
This movie helped launch that character, and it ended up becoming the only franchise I can think of in motorcycle films. And it segued away from it after the second film.
Yeah,
so
the whole point of it shifted from the motorcycle gang aspect to the lone character of Billy Jack, simply because with the Born Losers, they're the bad guys. The bikers are these evil, terrible, violent people, and Billy Jack goes all Walker Texas Ranger on them, and kicks
Billy
all
Jack
their
was
asses.
also important, and something we'll probably get into at some point, which was he brought the Native American character into a positive outlook in society. Because if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen those for years. I saw a couple of them when I was a kid. I think the character was half Cherokee, if I remember right. He was half some Navajo, Cherokee, one of the West Coast Native American tribes. Mm-hmm. And so that helped their causes as well in the early 70s when Native Americans were trying to get some of their land back and do everything. And that was excellent for them, but it doesn't really connect to the biker film. I just wanted to get that in because we will look at that eventually.
Yeah, I just felt it was important to bring that up because it was...
the first film was a outlaw biker film.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then it veered away from the whole biker thing because the character of Billy Jack became the focus and the focal point, and they did several other films focusing on him as this folk hero that would resort to violence as a last resort, but it was like, I'm going to completely kick your ass, but I'm going to feel bad about it, kind of a deal. The biker films started getting extremely weird, though, toward the end of the 60s into the 70s.
Now, let's do it this way. At the end of the 60s, the biker films split into three genres. Mm-hmm. The outlaw biker film, the horror biker film, which is where you're going, and the hippie biker film.
Yeah.
There were three different distinct feels to all of it.
Definitely.
The outlaw bikers were all the angers. The hippie ones were like, oh, we're going to be free and we're going to learn to make this country work for us. And
the hippie biker films definitely were also a product of the time.
Yeah.
Because the seminal biker film that a lot of people would, if you ask somebody what's a biker film, probably the first film they're going to say, if they're of your age and my age, they're probably going to say Easy Rider.
Even if they're younger than us, because 1969's Easy Rider was what introduced the hippie.
Yeah, the
biker.
whole idea of the hippie
Again, starring
biker.
Peter Fonda, along with Jack Nicholson and Dennis Hopper. Mm-hmm. It's considered a classic. I somewhat think it's sometimes overrated, but is a good film. But it's the
whole idea that these are people that just want to ride their bikes. They don't want to be hassled, and
they're peaceful as opposed to the violent aspect that the outlaw bikers have.
Right. The whole thing that I find really interesting, and it especially comes up with the Wild Angels, is the whole idea that their whole thing was, oh, we don't want to be hassled. Then why are you acting like a dick? That's... But the whole thing with
they want to stick it to the man, baby.
The whole Easy Rider thing is they really didn't want to be hassled.
No.
And they were being hassled. They were being hassled by the cops. They were being hassled by, quote unquote, normal people.
They weren't doing anything except riding. They were normal people.
They were riding bikes, and they were men with long hair. And for some reason that I still to this day don't understand.
Because people had seen the biker movies that came before.
No, my whole thing is men. For some reason, you have certain groups of people that for some reason they see a man with long hair and they lose their shite.
Well, Signs by the 5-Man Electrical Band, later by Tesla, tells that whole story.
It's like, the guy's got long hair, so what? He's not Medusa, calm down.
Yep.
But the whole, like you mentioned, the horror genre of biker films. Now there were some really weird examples of the whole horror genre idea when it came to combining it with the whole biker thing. As we mentioned, there were other smaller genres. There were female biker films where they were, all female bikers, which were these tough, strong women, which probably, you know, appealed to men on a level that most men don't want to admit to.
There were a number of biker films that were part of the blaxploitation genre as well. There were a very few comedies, but there were a few comedies. The best known of them, infamously known, probably, was 1971's The Pink Angels, which was about a motorcycle gang made up of all gay men.
Yes.
Which was funny in 1971. I guess.
Well, considering the fact that they're the heroes, they're the protagonists of the film, and the military and the police are looked at as and other biker gangs who are homophobic are looked at as the antagonists. I think that I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of positive, I guess.
Yeah. There were some Japanese entries too,
yes,
but not as many.
As many. As I said, though, the horror genre. I mean, when you've got films like Werewolves on Wheels, which is, I'm like, if you're a werewolf, why do you need a motorcycle? You know, why? You're a werewolf. You're running on 4 legs, allegedly, because that's the way a werewolf should actually look, and I don't care. I will fight you on that. And another film from Great Britain, 1971, Psychomania, which gets into biker gangs and Satan worship, because being in a biker gang's not bad enough for the Brits. You also have to be a devil worshiper. Okay,
By
fine.
the mid-70s, the movies were pretty much on their last legs because society had changed. We were looking toward the bicentennial.
Yeah.
And nobody really cared about the way the free thing was going on in the late 60s. And you ended up with both classic type of biker films like, Sidecar Racers, and you ended up with... We were going to watch it for this week, but we didn't get a chance, thank goodness. You end up with Evel Knievel playing himself in a movie, an action film called Viva Knievel, which is one of the worst reviewed films of the 70s.
Yeah.
And I mean,
think another reason why
the nail was in the coffin.
Well, I think another reason why the genre started to sputter was the fact that there were real life incidents with biker gangs, very high profile incidents with biker gangs that, people were getting killed, the whole mess at Altamont with the Rolling Stones concert, and there were all these things, and people were just like, okay, this isn't cool anymore. I mean, there have been other biker films well into the 90s and 2000s and
there have been other movies that have had bikers and obviously deeply involved, but a lot of them were period pieces like Grease 2, Rumblefish,
but there were some modern ones.
Streets of Fire.
2003's Biker Boys.
Yeah.
And of course, there was the long-running Sons of Anarchy,
right,
on
which
FX,
helped bring them back to the forefront and back into the good graces. I'll be surprised there aren't a couple of big films after that because they became such one of their most successful shows.
Yeah.
When we come back, we're going to head into the B-movie vault and pull out a couple of these. One of them, we just talked about a little bit, The Wild Angels. And the other one, an infamous movie that was misdeed and very well. And we'll be discussing those
when Subject Cinema returns.
Subject Cinema. Drive me summer.
Want to know what new films are coming out this weekend? Hi, I'm TC Kirkham of Subject Cinema, inviting you to check out 3 Minute Weekend, our weekly roundup of all the new films hitting U.S. theaters each weekend. We've got the 411 on all the new blockbusters, indies, and video-on-demand choices for you each week. 3 Minute Weekend, every Friday morning, from Subject Cinema and eCinemaOne.com, a PNRNetworks podcast powered by Libsyn. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast service. Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer is co-presented by Going Attractions, the definitive story of the American drive-in, from director April Wright. You can check it out right now on Amazon Prime or order the DVD at goingattractions.com.
Going Attractions, the definitive story of the American drive-in movie. A new documentary available now on DVD. The collector's edition is loaded with special features. You can get Going Attractions in your snack bar now.
Don't forget to subscribe to Subject Cinema on iTunes. Click on the iTunes link on our sidebar or search for Subject Cinema on iTunes. Once you're there, click subscribe. It's that easy. And don't forget to leave us a comment on our iTunes page and tell everyone what you think of Subject Cinema too.
Subject Cinema. Drive me a summer.
Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer Salutes are co-presented by driveins.com, your one-stop source for all information on drive-ins around the U.S. and around the world. You can find it at drive-ins.com. It's a coast-to-coast salute week right here. We're going to head out way out to Washington State, where I was born.
Your stomping ground.
We're going to the AutoView Drive-In Theater in Colville, Washington. AutoView has been open since 1953 with one screen and currently around 7 staff members. They're open every year from May to Labor Day, and they are the only indoor or outdoor theater in their neck of the woods. Colville is actually south of Spokane. Mm-hmm. They have actually, I read something a few weeks ago which attracted me to this, which was that they were getting ready to close back in 2012. And then they decided they couldn't have the money, and apparently they did get the money and found a sponsor, found a buyer, and are now all digital, showing all the great stuff out there. It's a very homey-looking little drive-in. You can tell that it's a local-loved drive-in as well, because every picture I see of the place from recently, a couple of Instagram, the place is packed. So people go to those people. I mean, I know these people. If I had a drive-in when I was in Harrington and I had a car, I would have been there. Because I lived in Harrington, Washington for 6 years. And I was trapped there for several years. We had no car. So when we went to the show, we had to either go to Spokane on the bus, or we had to borrow a car and go to Ritzville. Mm-hmm. And this would have been so much better. And having a drive-in in your own little backyard in the little towns is always a great place.
Definitely. You feel like you've got a special little place that's yours.
Yep, they do AM sound and stereo sound. You should have your own radio for everything, or your car radio. And they do sell T-shirts and hoodies at their concession stand with their logos on it. You can find them on Facebook at AutoView Drive-In Theater, and we'll also have links to their other spots on the web if they have them. And you definitely, it just sounds like the perfect kind of homey little place to see a couple of films. I mean, they're showing mostly family-oriented stuff, because out there in that area there's a lot of young families with kids and want to be able to safely show stuff. And so far this summer there's been enough titles out there that kids can definitely be involved with. And if you've never taken your kid out there, and it's an experience you can't forget, and especially in a little homey place like the AutoView in Colville, Washington. And they are this week's Subject Cinema Drive-In Salute number 1. So to Steve Wisner and his employees out there in Colville, Subject Cinema wishes you a great big drive-in summer salute.
Salute!
Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer is co-presented by Going Attractions, the definitive story of the American drive-in, from director April Wright. You can check it out right now on Amazon Prime, or order the DVD at goingattractions.com.
Is the next step the transplantation of the human brain?
The giant locusts have reached the Chicago South Side and nearby suburbs.
Flag on the moon. How did it get there? That bird is extraterrestrial.
Now that's ridiculous, Eulabelle.
Jerry just tried to kill me twice in the last 5 minutes.
Because all you of Earth are idiots. There are eyewitness accounts which state that monster scorpions have swarmed around the wreckage.
movies.
and no angels, law-defying, getting their kicks from violence and torture. The Wild Angels, starring Peter Fonda and Nancy Sinatra. In the Angel Gang, if you're one man's woman...
I remember being in the car when I was, must have been 3 or 4. No, it had to be later because it must have been during a re-release because my mom and Frank didn't get together until after my mom's divorce, which was 1968. And this movie came out in 1966. But I remember seeing this at the drive-in. I was excited because as a little kid, I was excited because Nancy Sinatra was in this film.
You had a crush on her.
I had a huge crush on Nancy Sinatra when I was 3 years old. She was beautiful, and she had those awesome go-go boots, and she sang Those Boots Are Made for Walking, which is my favorite song when I was 3. And I just don't know what got into me. But I don't know what got into her or this film either. From 1966, AIP presents the biker film that launched it all, The Wild Angels.
Okay.
Give us a rundown.
The Wild Angels is the story of an outlaw biker gang called the Wild Angels. Well, actually just the Angels. They are headed by a gentleman named Heavenly Blues, who I think if he actually showed any kind of emotion, I think it would physically kill him. He spends most of the movie, kind of vacillating between apathy and just slightly above apathy anger. The film begins with him and the other members of the gang going to Mecca, California to obtain a bike that was stolen from another member of the gang, a guy named Joe Kearns, who is given the affectionate nickname Loser. Charming. They show up at a garage and throw out an entirely bunch of racist comments toward the Latino men in the garage that had me sitting there going, oh my frog, did they just say that? And stuff happens, people get beat up, the consequences of which are that Loser steals a police officer's motorcycle, tries to get away.
Well, he gets away trying to distract people so everybody else can get away.
Yes. And winds up being fatally shot.
Well, he's shot. He's not fatal yet. It took him a couple of days.
Yeah, he winds up being shot. The police leisurely stroll over to his body and stand around looking at him. Nobody seems to be calling for an ambulance. I'm like, radio for a bus? Something? Hello? Anyway, so amazingly, he's not dead, but winds up in a hospital. And Blues, as he's known, and in the small group of the other men in the club decide they're going to break into the hospital where Loser is being held under police guard and break him out. Don't effing ask me why, but anyway. They use one of the women that are part of the club. Now, apparently, in this club, there are different sects that women fall into. You can be somebody's woman, which means you're their sole partner, or you can be a mama, which means you sleep with anybody who asks you to sleep with them. Charming.
Man, free love and all that stuff back then, remember? I'm just saying.
Free love.
Don't roll your eyes at me. I'm not. That's the culture thing.
I'm sorry. Free love usually involves consent. When the woman is screaming and yelling, "No, get off me!" That's not free love.
Okay, fine. But you know what I mean.
I'm sorry. That's rape. Anyway,
it is. Yes. Anyway,
so Blues.
There was a lot of that in these movies.
Oh yeah. Blues, the other gentleman, and Blues' girlfriend, who is named Mike. Okay. Mike causes a distraction, and the other guys break Loser out of the hospital. Not before one of them beats up an African-American nurse and nearly rapes her.
Yeah.
They bring they bring Loser to one of their hideaways, and spoiler alert, Loser dies because you took him out of a hospital after he'd been effing shot, you morons.
He probably would have died anyway. His wounds were pretty serious.
He got shot in the shoulder.
He got shot 3 times in the back from the cop chasing him down the road.
Oh yeah, he got shot once in the shoulder, but he got shot twice in the back.
Yeah.
Lower back.
Yeah.
So anyway, a funeral occurs at what looks like a non-denominational church, complete with all of the paraphernalia that the angels sport. Oh, by the way, did I mention that was Nazi paraphernalia?
They're neo-Nazis, yeah.
Yeah. They, Blues wears an iron cross. There's an enormous Nazi flag draped over the back of the casket. This whole thing breaks down into an orgy of rape and violence
in the church.
A church. Can I just say that again? In a church.
I gotta say, you weren't screaming about needing a shower last night, which surprised me, because we actually watched this again last night.
That's because the little Irish Catholic girl inside me went into shock about an hour before that.
Yeah, I know.
I know. I was just like, I think something in my brain broke. And the film culminates in the burial of Loser at a local graveyard where a fight breaks out between the angels and the townspeople when some snot-nosed little punk kid throws a rock at them. And there's this enormous fight. The police show up. All of the other angels flee except for Blues, who says at the end of the film, there's nowhere to go.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty accurate statement at that particular time.
Filling in the dirt over Loser's grave as the police pull up and the film ends, and I feel like I need to towel off everything.
Huge cast of people that would be big in the future, or known at least.
Yeah, lots of hey, it's that guy.
For that time. Peter Fonda in his first major lead as Heavenly Blues, Nancy Sinatra as Mike, Bruce Dern as Loser, Diane Ladd as Loser's wife, Gaish, Buck Taylor as the number 1 sidekick, Dear John, Norman Alden in a role I've never seen him in before as biker medic, Michael J. Pollard as Pygmy, Joan Shawley as Mama Monahan. You had mentioned, we figured out we knew her from Some Like It Hot.
Yeah, she plays Sweet Sue, the band leader in Some Like It Hot.
Yep, Lou Precipio as Joint, Mark Cavell as Frankenstein, Frank Maxwell as the preacher at the funeral, and also appearances by character actress Gail Honeycutt as Susie, Dick Miller as Rigger, and an appearance at the very beginning of the film, you blink and you miss it, by Barbara Morris, best known for her role in The Wasp Woman as the mom of the kid at the very beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. She's uncredited.
Yep.
We wanted to make this absolutely the best we could, and we said, let's watch this. It's available. And it isn't a half bad little film for what it is. I was surprised the fact that I was actually enjoying this movie. I thought we'd be sitting there and laughing and pointing and missying the hell out of it, which we did. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. And it's definitely a B movie. But for all intents and purposes, it set out to do exactly what it set out to do. Be a counterculture, angry biker film. Yep. And that's exactly what you got.
Yeah. A lot of biker films, especially the later films, like I mentioned, especially the hippie biker films, tend to make the bikers, if not the protagonists, at least the anti-heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They are, some of them are doing things that aren't quite legal. I mean, back then, smoking a joint wasn't legal,
Still isn't legal in a lot of states.
Right. But they weren't hurting anybody, and they're just driving their bikes and smoking weed, and they have long hair. Big deal. But they'd get hassled by the police and stuff like that. This film, you don't get any of that. These people are all awful human beings.
The movie poster's tagline: their credo is violence, their god is hate, and they call themselves the Wild Angels. Mm-hmm. Pretty powerful statement. It sums up the whole movie right there.
Truth in advertising right there. I cannot picture I would have hated to have been a parent that made the colossally dumb mistake of bringing their child to this film. There is hard drug use in this film.
You do realize you're talking about my mother, right?
Yes, I do. I'm not
Actually, no, you're talking more about my stepfather than my mother.
I'm not casting...
My mother was not a big fan of this
I am
film.
not casting aspersions on your parents. But, in my defense, I would like to say you were 4.
Yes.
Your parents were counting on the fact that as a 4-year-old, you probably weren't going to pay attention.
No, I only remember bits and pieces of all the biker films we would see. I remember all the Disney films completely.
I'm saying any parent who brought, like, their 8 to 10-year-old to this movie should have been bitch slapped.
Although, can we really say that since we saw families with little kids of 5 and 6 at Deadpool?
Yeah.
Which is one of the filthiest, funniest films of the last 2 years.
I know, and you and I were both sitting there going,
oh my God, what
hell?
are these people doing? And they didn't have a problem with it. They were all laughing and enjoying every second of it.
Considering the fact that we saw a family with a baby, I mean, baby, infant baby.
A husband and wife who brought their infant to the girl with the dragon tattoo, which was just like, are you insane?
I wanted to grab that child and run out of the theater.
Well, the child was way too young to really know anything, but it was the fact that they brought the baby.
I didn't really want to grab the child and run out of the theater.
But then again, they would have had to pay $50 for the babysitter.
I know, but
and the child didn't act up only the one time, and it only lasted a couple seconds.
Well, I was worried that it was going to freak the little kid out because of the loud noises. I figured there were going to be loud noise. Yeah. Anyway, with this film, I mean, like I said, it's one thing if people are toking a joint, big whoop. But this film has hard drug use.
Yeah,
there are references to heroin in this film.
Yep.
There are extremely obvious references to rape in this film.
I would be more worried about the rape. I mean, the rapes in this film, and they happen, plus consensual, also sex in this film, but also it's mostly rape, and that's the way it is in a lot of the biker films. It's very, very violent.
It is.
And yet, every time the camera intimated that Peter Fonda's character was getting intimate, he'd come up like he was Robin Birdemic with no change, all of his clothes still on, including his jacket and his jeans and his boots. Nothing to indicate he'd had sex.
Well, apparently you're a lousy lay. If you don't even have a tiny bit of afterglow, you're doing something wrong. But, I mean, the fact that I cannot even picture... Well, I can't picture being any right-thinking adult and bringing a child to this kind of a movie anyway.
Right.
Of course, I can't figure out what the hell people were thinking in the 60s dropping off their kids to see Night of the Living Dead.
They didn't know any better, honey. The film was advertised as a Saturday horror matinee.
Anybody who saw that trailer for that movie...
It probably wasn't trailered.
Anyway. And when you think about the fact that one of the rapes in this film is a gang rape taking place in a church, I mean, this film must have gone over so well in Kansas.
Yeah.
No offense to Kansas.
Now,
but actually it did do well. This film was the 16th highest grossing movie of 1966.
It became the catalyst for everything that would follow.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately,
yes,
one of the films that followed was a true piece of dreck, and this is what it was like. Oh, I want to know, number one, who came up with this ridiculous idea for a sport? And number two...
why you think we'd want to see it?
Right. And more to the point, why you would, pummel our senses with some of the worst dialogue and acting in history. even with named people in it.
Yeah.
1969's movie Five the Hard Way, which is best known by its alternate title, thanks to Mystery Science Theater 3000. The film was called The Side Hackers. Was this revenge-filled movie about a biker sport called side hacking.
Yes. Side hacking is actually also known by a couple of other names. It's known as sidecar cross, which is all one word.
That's the formal name for it.
Or sidecar motocross racing.
To my knowledge, it's still going on in Europe, but nobody else has seemed to take it on.
Those are three words that don't belong in the same sentence. The plot of the Side Hackers, or Five the Hard Way, is the story of Rommel. Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the hill you're going to die on movie? You know, you
the main bad guy is JC, and it's intimated it stands for Jesus Christ. So let's move on.
Rommel is a mechanic. What did they think Mengele would actually make people upset? He is a mechanic who also does the sport of side hacking. And he turns down an offer by another side hacker, a guy named JC, who wants him to join JC's act. JC has a girlfriend named Paisley. It's the 60s. Remember that. Real barrels full of drugs. She winds up falling in love with Rommel and attempts to get into his pants. Rommel tells her to take a flying leap and sends her away. I mean, he's
loyal to his girl.
He loves his lady, whose name is Rita, who is actually his fiancée.
Yep.
The thing is, I mean, he's not exactly tender with his rebuff of Paisley, but it's not like he chucks her out of a moving car or anything. But she gets all upset, goes off and gets herself pissed drunk. JC and his bunch of other motley crew come back to the hotel that they're in, and Paisley is pissed drunk, as I mentioned, and her clothes are ripped because she did that herself, and she is, which is not a good thing. And then she makes a bad thing even worse by claiming that Rommel sexually attacked her. Naturally, JC, who is a couple of French fries short of a Happy Meal anyway, goes completely around the bend and winds up raping and killing Rita, the aforementioned fiancée of Rommel. Thus begins a bloody, roaring rampage of revenge that ends with, spoiler alert, everybody being dead. The good guys are dead, the bad guys are dead, life sucks, the end.
Now, before I give you the cast, I want to tell you that this movie was best described by somebody in random comments on, I think it was Amazon, it might have been on Rotten Tomatoes, I forget which. This is the biker film that Coleman Francis would have made. And you guys know I cannot stand Coleman Francis.
The sad thing is how accurate that statement is.
Excuse me.
That is horrifyingly accurate.
With Ross Hagen as Rommel, Diane McBain as Rita, Michael Pataki, who should have known better, billed as Mike Pataki here, as JC, Richard Merrifield as Luke, Claire Pollan, who also should have known better, as Paisley, Edward Parrish as Nero, Michael Graham as Cooch, Hoke Howell as Crapout, and Robert Tessier, billed as Bob Tessier here, as Jake, plus appearances by a number of other people. And as I said, some of these people actually did have careers after this film. Claire Pollan went on to do a whole bunch of episodic television in the 70s and 80s. Ross Hagen was also, hey, it's that guy. He did a lot of B movies in the 60s and 70s. But Michael Pataki, one of the best damn character actors on the planet, who I have loved throughout his entire career. I mourned him when he passed a couple years ago so much. I loved his... he was the best part of American Anthem. He was the gymnastics coach. And I'd never really seen him up to that point.
Yes.
Loved him in that, and I became an enormous fan of his because of that.
Yeah.
And yet he usually plays... He was best known for playing heavies, usually Russian or European in origin.
Or Klingon.
Or Klingon. No.
Yes.
He didn't do a Klingon, did he?
Yes, he did. He was the Klingon named Korax in the episode The Trouble with Tribbles. He's the one that's shooting off his mouth in the bar and winds up starting the big fight between the Klingons and the Federation crew that's there on shore leave.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I know he did Star Trek: The Next Generation later.
No, he's
as a dictator on a planet. But
he's the one that says that the Enterprise should be hauled away as garbage, and the whole.
Yeah, now that I'm looking in my head, I can kind of. Yeah, okay.
And once again,
totally forgot about
everything in life revolves back to Star Trek.
I love him. And his role in this movie is so repulsive, I don't ever want to see this film again. Even with the Misty, because this was this a Mike or a Joel?
This was a Mike.
They did the best they could with this film, and they actually did make it fairly tolerable. Something they had a hard time doing with most of Coleman Francis's films. And it was really, that their part was good.
Yeah. We didn't
the song
see
was
this.
hilarious.
We didn't see this movie. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, this was a Joel. I'm sorry, this was a Joel.
They had a song and it was hilarious.
And the reason I thought it was Mike was because Mike actually there was a quote about this film. The guys over at Mystery Science Theater 3000 they got the rights to this film to Misty it, and
didn't watch it all the way through.
They didn't watch it all the way through before they did that. They watched the film and realized, holy crap, there's a very violent rape and murder scene.
We have to cut this whole scene out of the film. It's like 10 minutes long.
Yeah. As a quote from Michael J. Nelson, quote, "We were all traumatized, the scene got cut, and from that day forward, movies were watched in their entirety before they were selected," end quote. They also had to edit the film a little bit when they did the Misty version because JC makes a statement including the N-word, and obviously that's not going to get said on TV.
Not in the early 90s.
And they covered it up by having Joel and the bots loudly yell at the screen and chastise JC for his completely aberrant behavior.
Not to mention his wardrobe, which absolutely sucked.
5 the Hard Way is, I'm sorry, I realize, now let's be honest.
I want to know what 5 they're talking about. I always thought The Side Hackers was a better title for this film because it never describes 5 what the hard way?
I don't know.
I've never got that title. Anyway. Go on, sorry.
I have no idea, to be perfectly honest with you. We've brought up before, and if I'm wrong about this, I'll accept the blame. But for the most part, drive-in films and films like this, B-movies and stuff like that, they were made as make-out excuses.
Yeah,
This was the excuse to go parking.
Especially the further along in the 60s you got.
Yeah. These were excuses to go parking with your best gal or your best guy, and, smooch, maybe get to second base.
But they had to attract them in the first place. Guys are not going to go smooch to, like, some romantic film with Pat Boone.
Well, no.
They need the attraction of the bikers or the hot rods or the beach stuff
or the scary,
to get them in.
Or the scary monsters to have to have the girl jump in your lap and be all like, "Oh, protect me."
Which really would have changed in the 70s with all the squishy stuff that started coming out.
Yeah, it's hard to be like, "Ew, protect me," when she's like puking in your lap.
Exactly.
But I'm sorry, I defy anybody to see this movie and then be like, "Hey, baby," it's like. Did that turn you on as much as it turned me on? Because I'd be like, I'm getting out of this car and walking home right now.
You'd do a Sandy really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd slam the door on his jewels, too. This movie is terrible.
This movie is possibly one of the worst films. It is one of the worst films I've ever seen.
So the end of this movie is so depressing. I mean, it's like...
Touch of Satan has a worse ending. But this film is...
You say that about every movie. You're like, every movie's ending is, well, it was bad, but it's not Touch of Satan. So,
Touch of Satan completely freaked me out. And I'm sorry. I mean, I can watch a bad movie.
I hate the end of Touch of Satan, too. It's...
The Apple is probably worse than all of them. But
no, that's a WTF ending. You're just like...
Yeah, but that doesn't make it a good ending.
Well, but it's a little more hopeful. I mean, the good...
You want hopeful in a bad movie ending? Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Anyway, that's so far away from this.
I would rather drink an entire bottle of sriracha than watch that movie again.
Really? Oh, this will be fun. I'll be sure to film that and put it on YouTube.
Yeah, you can be the one that calls my mom. Yeah, she's in the hospital having her stomach pumped because I made her do something stupid.
I made her do something stupid. Anyway, this movie,
is stupid.
It's tolerable with the Misty. Without it, I wouldn't even bother because she'll be in so much pain. Go watch if you want to watch a good, decent motorcycle film. The Wild Angels is not a bad choice. It was actually enjoyable.
It shows you what people were looking at the time, and you're like, okay. But
and I've always liked Peter Fonda, and he was great in this film. And Nancy Sinatra did a halfway decent job too. And she wasn't best known as an actress.
No.
And I had never seen Diane Ladd that young.
No.
And she really takes the cake. She's the one really good actress of everybody in this film.
Yeah.
That's why she's been up for an Academy Award, and why her daughter's been up for an Academy Award, and her ex-husband.
But the side hackers, unless you've got Joel and the bots to help you, don't do it.
It's intermission. Rise and stretch time. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for hot popcorn? Your favorite soft drinks are sparkling cold. The juicy Frank sizzling hot. There's delicious coffee, freshly brewed, and all kinds of ice cream and candy to tempt you. Showtime will be announced loud and clear to get you back to your car in time. So stretch your legs. Come to the snack bar now.
Popcorn and candy. Yum, yum. Oh, boy. And an orange, too.
Start in 1 minute.
Death Race 2000. In the year 2000, hit-and-run driving is no longer a crime. It's the national sport. Death Race 2000, starring David Carradine. He was built by the world's finest surgeons to drive the fastest car ever designed, and nothing can stop him now. Death Race 2000, a cross-country road wreck. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. Battered, shattered, creamed and reamed, soaring to glory in their mean machines. Death Race 2000, David Carradine, Simone Griffith, she's young, he's crazy. There's nothing they won't do at 200 miles an hour. Hold on. Death Race 2000, God help anyone who gets in their way. Death Race, a cross-country road wreck. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. In the year 2000, you won't need Boy Scouts to help you cross the street. You'll need an armed guard. The traffic is murder in Death Race 2000, starring David Carradine.
I was brought up in a government training center to be just what I am, the best driver on earth.
Death Race 2000, the cars of the future in a cross-country road wreck. Death Race 2000, a new world picture rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
The show is about to start. Thank you for your cooperation. Enjoy the show, and please come back and visit us again.
Subject Cinema. Drive me a summer.
Anthony's Moments of Madness.
I lost my heart in the rain in a moment of madness.
With Anthony Lamberti.
Anthony here, and on Anthony's Moments of Madness, I'm going to be talking about the classic monster movies, and what best place to see those. So, the classic monster movies alone are just amazing films. I can't get enough of watching them. I watch them over and over and over again. I actually bought the Blu-ray set. The original Dracula with Bela Lugosi, and the Mummy, and of course my favorite classic monster movie is The Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, aside from how amazing and great these movies are, just imagine watching them at a drive-in theater. How cool would that be? I mean, you get the effects of the actual outside. So just think about this. So you're at a drive-in theater. Okay, you're outside. It's a nice night out. It's the overcast going on. It's not raining, but there is a heat, kind of like a heat wave going on, which is causing lightning in the clouds. Okay, and a little bit of thunder. Again, no rain. And just imagine watching the Wolfman, the original Wolfman, in black and white. And how cool would that be with, as you're watching it, the lightning and the thunder going above your head, which just gives it an actual kind of I would say a 4D kind of experience of watching this movie, because you have the real effects going on outside, and here you are watching, this film that's horror, and it's just has this thing, as a scary part comes up, all of a sudden the thunder from outside just claps, it's going to make you jump. It's going to be great. That would be one of my all-time greatest theater experiences ever. It would be at a drive-in theater. So if I can find the closest drive-in around me, possibly maybe even talk to them about, see if they can get their hands on maybe some of the classic monster movies, and show them there, if I can get to it again. I would love just to watch the classic monster movies, especially, like I said, the Wolfman, and I would love to watch Dracula, the Mummy, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, of course, which is my favorite monster movie, classic monster movie, and just how great the feeling would be. Just listen to it through. It depends on, I guess, what theater you go to, what drive-in theater you go to, whether they have it tuned in on the radio, so you get to hear it through your car speakers, which is cool, surround sound, or if they still have that little box outside where you have to just turn it on and click, and of course that's not the greatest sound quality, but I mean, you're basically experiencing these movies. If it does have that box, you're experiencing these movies on how they experienced it back in the, the 20s, 30s, 40s, They didn't have all this digital surround sound and all this stuff back then, so that would be kind of a cool effect, just listening through the speaker, because that's basically how most people seen it back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, so it would just be a great feeling, kind of like, going back in the past and watching these amazing films. So if you get a chance, again, get to your local drive-in, and you have not seen these classic films, please watch them, especially around Halloween time. So until next time, this is Anthony signing out.
Subject Cinema! Drive this summer!
eCinemaOne is your choice for great info and commentary about the world of film and entertainment. Daily trailer postings, the latest news and film reviews, commentary about the state of the industry, the weekly Subject Cinema and 3-Minute Weekend podcast, and so much more you won't believe it. New material is being posted daily, so join us each day and see what you're missing out on. Once you visit, you will always be back for more. eCinemaOne from PNRNetworks, eCinemaOne.com. Want to listen to Subject Cinema on the go? Check out Stitcher. You can access all the latest episodes right from iPhone or Android. Check it out. Click on the Stitcher logo on our sidebar or go to Stitcher.com and search for your favorite PNR Network show. Get started today.
Subject Cinema! Drive this summer! Dixie Kirkham and Kim Brown!
time for our weekly trip to Moon 13 as we get ever so closer to the end of the season of the revival of Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the 13 Report. And Kinga and Max have gone too far this time.
Way too far.
This is
I am writing a letter
terrible.
to my congressman. Break out the crayons.
1981's Carnival Magic, directed by the inimitable Al Adamson. We'll talk about him. Give us the rundown of the film.
No.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Come on.
I'm scared.
Please.
Okay. Carnival Magic tells the story of a carnival somewhere in the southern part of the United States. Traveling show that has fallen upon hard times, because it's a carnival, and
in the 1980s.
In the 1980s, and the carnival is run by a gentleman named Stoney who drinks entirely too much. And his daughter, who is, she's called Bud or Buddy. Her real name is Ellen. The other people that are part of the show include an arrogant animal trainer named Kirk, his girlfriend Kim, and a gentleman named Markov who goes by Markov the Magnificent. Because, why not? Because you ever notice there's so many magicians with an M in the name? Merlin.
Can I quote Barbara Stanwyck here?
What?
For the love of God, why?
Seriously, there's so many wizards and witches. It's like Merlin. This guy what's his name again? Markov. Mandrake the magician, Madam Mim.
Madam Mim.
Madam Mim.
Put the mad in there.
Yeah, it's weird.
And
anyway.
then you have Gandalf and Dumbledore. Those don't fit the M's.
Well, they don't.
So the good ones don't fit the M's, apparently.
Well,
although Mandrake was a good one.
Yeah, so was Merlin.
Oh, Merlin was. Well, it depends on the depiction.
Well, anyway.
Some of them depict him as cool. Some of them depict him as a bumbling fool. So it depends.
Moving along. But the thing is, Markov is an actual magician in the fact that he seems to have mystical powers, probably because he was raised by... What did they say? Buddhists in
Something
the Far
like that,
East
yeah.
or Hindi? I forget. I'm sorry.
India. He was in India.
He was in India. Yeah. And he was raised by mystics after his parents died. Blah blah blah. We also find out about his tragic backstory and the fact that he had a wife who was pregnant and she died in an accident, which has made him leery about falling in love again. Even though one of the women involved with the carnival, a buxom lass named Kate, is interested in him and would like to help him find love again. But Markov has another secret in his trailer that he talks to. Not the trailer, the secret in the trailer. The secret in the trailer turns out to be, drumroll,
a talking chimp.
Yep.
Although he's actually a talking ape.
Well, a chimpanzee is considered an ape.
Oh, okay.
That's,
Okay.
Every time they called it a monkey, I flipped out.
Oh, that's right. I was calling him a monkey, but it was actually a chimp.
Yeah, and chimpanzees are considered apes, so you people fail biology forever. And amazingly enough, Alex can talk.
Well, he can
Fish.
mutter. He can mutter words. He can't really talk.
Yeah, I mean, he might get a 3-word sentence out, but that's about it.
Yeah. He's
but-
not Caesar.
No.
By a long shot.
No. He's not even very cute, and that's really terrible because I love animals, but
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I love animals, but chimps make me nervous. I get very nervous around
You love chimps, but you wouldn't want to handle them because you feel that they're not necessarily as docile as most people believe.
No, absolutely not. I think chimps are beautiful animals. But if you were like, hey, you want to hold this baby chimp? I'd be like, hey, F you, no way. No offense. But anyway, the thing is, Kirk, the aforementioned Animal Act guy who has tigers that are in cages that are way too small.
And that hate his guts from the sound of it.
Yeah, well, because he beats them. Because that's always a great idea. Take an animal that's got, 4 sets of claws, enormous teeth, and treat it badly. That's never going to come back and bite you on the butt.
No.
Oh, no, wait,
No.
it does. Kirk is jealous because once Alex becomes part of Markov's act at the urging of Ellen, the carnival becomes, the hottest ticket in town, considering the fact that the town looks like a fly speck of a place that,
And I think most people think he's just throwing his voice.
Yeah,
They
probably.
don't really realize that Alex is really talking, except for one rather kind of scummy gentleman.
Yeah.
A scientist.
Yes. Kirk alerts a scientist to Alex and his wonderful abilities, and Dr. Poole has nefarious plans for Alex. And it's up to Markov and the other members of the carnival to stop his evil deeds. Please tell the cast so we can get this over with.
With Don Stewart as Markov, Jennifer Holton as Ellen, Howard Siegel as David, the kind of nebbishy PR guy.
Mm-hmm.
Regina Carroll as Kate, Joe Cirillo as Kirk, Mark Weston as Stoney, Charles Reynolds as Dr. Poole, Diane Kettering as Kim, plus a few other people doing bit parts. This movie is truly one of the most painful movies to get through I've ever sat through Misty on. This was Red Zone Cuba level.
Ugh. I would rather watch Batman and Robin twice than watch this movie again.
How about The Future?
Yeah. I'd actually rather watch The Future than watch this movie again.
And also credited Trudy the Chimp as Alexander the Great, the Chimp, and Linda Sherwood as his voice.
Yes.
So that was a woman doing that voice.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And it's a female chimp playing him. So this film's got gender issues and everything else. As we mentioned, this film is directed by the infamous Al Adamson, who was a director of some of the most god-awful films that ever made it to celluloid. I'm sorry. I realize the man is not with us anymore. He was murdered at the age of 66 in 1995 by a gentleman that was working on his home. And that's a tragic thing, obviously. But this man made god-awful films, and there it is.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hate to be cruel, but there it is.
Among the things he's known for as a director, and Carnival Magic was his second to last film, were a lot of crap from the 60s and 70s, including Psycho a Go-Go, which is considered a bad classic.
Mm-hmm.
Five Bloody Graves, Hell's Bloody Devils, Brain of Blood.
Which we've seen.
We have. That was a
cinematic Titanic.
Yeah. Dracula versus Frankenstein, Angels, Wild Women, which is a biker film, The Naughty Stewardesses, and Black Samurai, among others. He was known as a terrible filmmaker.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Coleman Francis, unfortunately, way more prolific.
Unfortunately. The trailer alone for Dracula versus Frankenstein is enough to make you want to vomit blood. It is one of the worst trailers I've ever seen. It absolutely breaks my heart to see horror icon Lon Chaney Jr. in this incredibly hideous film. And, the fact that J. Carol Nash is involved with this just also makes me want to cry.
Don't mince words, hon. How do you really feel?
The trailer made me want to hate life.
What about Carnival Magic?
What
did you think of Carnival Magic?
Carnival Magic makes me want to hate the entire universe. I'm sorry. This film.
Now you guys have seen a lot of these people before. Jennifer Holton would go on to be on The Doctors, which was a soap on NBC in the 70s.
I think she was
80s.
Actually on before.
Before?
Yeah.
And she left for this. Don Stewart, popular character actor, did a lot of stuff from the 70s on. He looks familiar to me, and I think I remember him from his appearances on Knots Landing, but I'm not sure.
He also made numerous appearances as numerous police officers on Dragnet.
Yeah, and I might remember him from there too. But and of course you have Mark Weston as Stoney, probably because they probably couldn't get Joe Don Baker. This movie is so painful.
Man.
I was at, 10-15 minutes in, I was hitting the pause button, checking the time on how much more of the movie there was to go.
Oh.
It was that bad. I was like, oh God, please let it end.
I figured that last week's double dose of pain with Wizards of the Lost Kingdom 1 and 2.
Oh, good God. This makes Wizards of the Lost Kingdom 2 look like Shakespeare, let alone makes Wizards of the Lost Kingdom.
This one makes Wizards of the Lost Kingdom 2 look like the never-ending story.
Oh, no. Don't insult it that way. No, don't insult Never-Ending Story that way. It makes it look like Shakespeare, and it makes the first one look like 2001: A Space Odyssey. You can insult those.
Okay.
I don't care about those. But don't go into this a Never-Ending Story.
Sorry. I stand chastened and rebuked. Anyway, this film...
Don't you go hating on my Bastion. And
fine, I get it.
Sorry, anyway.
This is, in my opinion, even though there's 2 more films left in the season... This is the worst film in the new season of Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Thankfully, the host segments and the wraparounds were really good this week.
Yes, they were.
Because if they hadn't been, I would have been pulling my hair out.
Mm-hmm. The host segments include a continuation from what happened last week. The host segments include a prologue with Tom Servo hosting a Tom Talk, as opposed to a TED Talk. Personally, I'd rather listen to a Tom Tom Club than listen to Tom have a TED Talk or a Tom Talk or whatever. And I think I just made my eyes cross. Anyway. Moving forward.
Who remembers the Tom Tom Club? Subject Cinema at PNRNetworks.com.
Da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm old. Anyway. I'm sorry, I've caused an episode. Anyway. The first segment includes Kinga carrying over her plans from last week, planning to get more ratings for the new Mystery Science Theater 3000, even though Netflix doesn't go by ratings.
Well, no, but you got to remember, at the time they made these, they did not know where their home would be.
That's true. Kinga has announced that she plans to get married, because that always bumps up the ratings and stuff like that. The thing is, she has decided she's going to marry...
Jonah
looks about as thrilled as the citizens of downtown Tokyo did when Godzilla rose up out of Tokyo Bay. Max is disappointed because Max
loves Kinga.
Max has an unrequited love for Kinga. Max has incredibly low standards.
Max has issues all the way around.
Oh,
Not just for the fact that he's played by Patton Oswalt.
Stop that. And I'm definitely not knocking...
I actually like him as Max.
I am not knocking the lady that plays Kinga. Felicia Day is a wonderful
actress. Felicia Day rocks.
And a very pretty lady.
And she's sitting there being smug about, oh yes, she's so good. And I'm like, you do realize most people don't know her from Supernatural, don't you? They know her from The Guild. Really? Honestly. Anyway.
Let me have my moments. Don't piss on my parade
whatever.
And shut up. The invention exchange involves Jonah's invention, which is the Yeastapet, which is what happens when you put balls of yeast in an aquarium.
The idea is it's not a chia pet and it's not a...
It's not sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys, it's a cross between the two of them. It was just stupid. The whole invention... I gotta be honest, the invention exchange worked really well when Joel Hodgson was doing the show, but they stopped doing it when Mike was doing it, because Mike wasn't very good at it, and I don't think Jonah's that good at it either.
See, I think Jonah's good at it. I liked it.
I hope it goes away for the second season.
The whole Yeastapet thing I thought was... Well, being a woman, we don't deal well with yeast, so, it's...
family show.
I didn't continue it. I stopped it. Kinga and Max's invention is Flavor Sweat. The whole idea that you drink this drink, and when you sweat, your sweat has different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go throw up. I'll be right back. Segment 2 is Tom introducing Markov and Alexander's act from the film. Tom does a great Carney voice. I have to say that. Jonah is Markov. Love the hair, man. Sorry it couldn't stay on. And Crow is Alexander because...
It's
why
Crow.
not? Because...
It's Crow.
And Gypsy as a dancing girl, because for some reason this carnival has dancing girls.
No, it's his assistant. It's
No, I'm saying the carnival has dancing girls.
Oh yeah, the carnival has disco dancers as an attraction. So this was made in 1979,
disco
but didn't really release
dancers
until
who are
1981.
dressed as, like Arab dancers, belly dancers.
Well, one of them. Another time they were just danced in, like they were just like jeans and t-shirts.
I was like...
Jiggle dancers.
I was like, okay, this woman's dressed like Princess Jasmine and she's as Caucasian as I am. That's not racist or anything. Segment 3 involved Tom... This was my favorite segment until segment 4. Tom and Crow as two redneck police officers.
That was funny. That was
from
a
the
riot.
film, talking back and forth on their radios, and they're talking in a pseudo CB language with all these CB terms that they're making up, as they're going along, and it gets progressively more and more ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And it was really funny, and my favorite segment until the next segment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Segment 4 involved a visitor to Moon 13 and to the Satellite of Love, a traveling space carny by the name of P.T. Mindslap.
Hey kids, it's Mark Hamill!
Yeah. And Kim instantly starts squeeing high enough to break glass. He wants to make Jonah and the bots part of his great space circus, which he talks about in song and tells about all of the acts that go on in the circus tent, which is so dark that you can't actually see the acts and you have to just take his word for all the amazing stuff that's going on. What? Kinga isn't buying any of this and sends him packing. Not before we did get a couple of really nice Joker inflections in the voice. And I was completely an 8-year-old girl squeeing my head off. Mm-hmm. Segment 5 is Kinga and Max doing an announcement of the parade, because there is a carnival parade at the end of the movie and a carnival parade through the Satellite of Love. Mm-hmm. And there is, at one point, a glitch in the video, and we see another person standing in between the bots wearing a different colored jumpsuit, and I'm like, you did just see that, right?
Yeah, I don't know who it was. He looked, he was skinny, and he looked Latino, and I'm like, that's interesting.
He is actually associate producer and writer Matt McGinnis.
Okay.
Who is playing a character named, they say his name, they actually name him in their notes. I lost it. Matt Claude Van Damme.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
You guys just have to get in the Jean-Claude Van Damme slams.
We're gonna see more of that, because this all pertains, I'm sure, to their impending nuptials coming up in the season finale.
I don't know. All I know is this movie hurts.
Now, here's the interesting thing. As we were doing research, I pulled up the Wikipedia entry for this movie, and I got this, which totally stunned me. Following the discovery of a clean print in 2009, Carnival Magic was restored, why? And reissued and remastered, why again? In 2010, receiving its television debut on Turner Classic Movies in October of that year as part of their TCM Underground series. It saw a DVD release in 2011 from Film Chest and HD Cinema Classics, reissued on Blu-ray and containing bonus material, which includes outtakes, trailers, audio commentary, and interviews with cult film historian Joe Rubin and producer Elvin Feitner, which helped to clear up some of the long-running mysteries surrounding the bizarre film, which
like why it got made,
which apparently has a huge cult following. And all I can think of is, why? Because this movie is terrible. It's,
This movie is unforgivably bad. I mean, I can't tell if it's trying to be a children's movie. It can't be a children's movie because we veer into some extremely dark territory with this film, including animal abuse, vivisection, spousal abuse.
We got to bring that up too. It says and also here that it was intended as family fare aimed at children, but the prevalence of adult themes, including sex, alcoholism, abuse, and violence, left many viewers confused. Now, obviously, who wrote the script for this? Scriptwriter is not listed here. Let me go over
What
here.
a surprise.
Screenwriter.
Who's going to want to take a responsibility for that?
And the screenwriter isn't listed here either.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, I'll find it. Writing credits, Mark Weston and Bob Levine. Mark Weston, isn't he the guy playing the carnival guy?
I don't know.
And Elvin Feltner from the original story by Elvin Feltner, one of the producers. Mark Weston played Stoney. They apparently do not realize what vivisection is.
No.
Because at one point, the evil doctor is talking about vivisection and how necessary it is for scientific advancements. And then he tells his assistant, well, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to put him to sleep tomorrow. For those of you uninitiated out there, vivisection is done while an animal is alive and unsedated in most cases.
Yep. Now, put to sleep...
Ew.
Put to sleep could be one of two things. Put to sleep could be put to sleep, as in euthanized.
Right.
Or it could be put to sleep, given anesthesia. Neither of
those work.
Are involved in vivisection, which is a barbaric, horrible practice, which is hopefully still not going on.
I'm sure it is somewhere, which is a shame, but this movie is terrible. The misty stuff surrounding it helps save it a little bit. And I don't know why there is a cult around this film. I don't get it at all.
I don't either. I really and truly don't. Next week on the Deep 13 report, we shall be heading back to Moon 13 because it's going to be Christmas in July. Hooray!
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Yep. Next week's film is an Italian piece of coal. That's not the word I was going to use, but I censored myself. Aren't you proud, Mom?
Yes.
That translates in English, or at least it's close to English, The Christmas That Almost Wasn't.
What, you mean it's not going to be the boy who Santa Claus forgot?
No. They didn't make a movie of that. Thank whichever deity you believe in.
Yet.
Oh, please, don't.
The best movies! Subject Cinema!
Want to know what top titles from film and TV are hitting home video this week? Hi, I'm TC Kirkham of Subject Cinema, inviting you to check out Tuesday Digidex, our weekly roundup of all the new home video releases in the U.S. each week. Whether it's DVD, Blu-ray, or streaming you're looking for, we've got it covered. Tuesday Digidex, every Tuesday morning, from Subject Cinema at eCinemaOne.com, a PNRNetworks podcast powered by Libsyn. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast service.
Na 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 Pee-wee. And holy rusted metal, it's Aunt B too.
Hi, I'm Aunt B. Join myself and Pee-wee every week as we cover comic books, comic stuff that's happening on TV, comics in the movies.
And we'll be doing it all in our tightest tights and our capiest capes in our secret lair.
Comic Grotto, where two guys light up the bat signal. www.comicgrotto.com.
Subject Cinema! Drive-in summer!
Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer salutes are co-presented by driveins.com, your one-stop source for all information on drive-ins around the U.S. and around the world. You can find it at drive-ins.com. In our first loop this week, we went to the West Coast. Now we're coming to the East Coast, and one of the oldest theaters of its type anywhere in the country.
Yep.
The Saco Drive-In in Saco, Maine,
Yep.
has been in operation since 1939.
Wow.
This has been this goes way back. They are located at 969 Portland Road, across the street from Aquaboggin Water Park on U.S. Route 1.
That's
which
awesome.
means
We can go to the water park and then
we could
go
jump
to the
on
movie.
Route 1 and drive straight there.
Yeah.
It's right there. They are open Monday through. They're open 7 days a week during the summer, and generally every year from late spring through October. They are currently, they use the slogan where movies and nostalgia meet.
That sounds great.
It does. And they are a family-operated place that has all kinds of great family entertainment. They specialize in showing films that families can generally watch together. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious about the Jason Bourne showing with Kubo last summer, but that's those two are completely way off, but they're PG, so technically they're family films.
Well, nothing can be weirder than going to see The Hand That Rocks the Cradle with Beauty and the Beast. Okay, that happened to me.
Yeah, but it was a sneak.
That
was different.
That's true.
Sacco is fully digital. Their sound transmitted on FM radio. If you don't have a radio, they have some speakers that you can get from the snack bar, or you can position where you can hear them. They're actually positioned on the snack bar. They don't have speakers for rent. They don't have pole speakers, so bring your own radio if you're not going to use your car. They are pet friendly, but they ask to keep the pets. Do not to bring the pets into the snack bar.
Which makes sense.
They have a 4.5 out of 5 rating on Yelp, a 4.5 out of 5 rating on TripAdvisor.
And that shows they're doing something right.
And they have comments from people all over the U.S. about what a wonderful, fun place this is for families to go and enjoy drive-in entertainment. They have a menu of regular stuff, normal stuff at the snack bar, and did not indicate to me whether or not they have any branded stuff. But I do know that there is, like one of our spotlights recently, there is a documentary in the works about the place, and there is a book about the place available out there. That's how long it's been running and how long it's been part of Southern Maine. What am I looking for? Culture, thank you.
That's fantastic. You've got the aqua park, across the street, so you have a hot day. You
go
can
get
go
wet
and
wild and then go and roast in your car. That makes good sense.
Or you could go dry off. You go to the water park, you get wet and go crazy, and then you dry off, and when it gets dark out, you go to the movies and see a great show.
And it's close enough that you can get to it from a lot of Maine, plus New Hampshire and Massachusetts. It isn't that far across the... If you're going up Route 1, there's only... From Massachusetts, there's only 6 miles of New Hampshire to go through before you get to Maine. So it's like, okay, it's super easy to get to. Once again, it is at 960 Portland Road in Saco, Maine, the Saco Drive-In Theater, and we tip our hat to all of the employees and staff that work there in this great summer entertainment place that everybody apparently loves. Mm-hmm. And that is why the Saco Drive-In gets this week's second Drive-In Summer Salute.
Salute!
Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer is co-presented by Going Attractions, the definitive story of the American drive-in, from director April Wright. You can check it out right now on Amazon Prime or order the DVD at goingattractions.com.
Subject Cinema Drive-In Summer.
Now you can bring all your favorite PNR Network shows to your television. Check out PNR Networks on Roku. It's all of what PNR Networks has to offer, all in one place. The entire PNR Networks podcast family, Subject Cinema Reviews, Platinum Rose's Garden, Mirrorball Mayhem, 3-Minute Weekend, Cavebabble, and Mashed Up Madness, plus the latest videos from PNR Networks and Larry 411, all right at your fingertips. And even more is on the horizon. It's literally thousands of hours, a decade worth of great audio and video, all under one roof. And best of all, it's all free. The PNR Network's Roku channel. Simply go to the On Roku area of any of our websites or click on the Roku button on the sidebar to subscribe. And don't forget to tell all your Roku-owning friends we're here as well.
eCinemaBoston is your best choice for all the latest news and info about happenings in the world of film here in the hub of the universe. Local theater listings, ticketing info, reviews of local venues, spotlight on Boston actors, the latest film shoots, and a whole lot more. If you're in the Metro Boston area, you need eCinemaBoston from PNRNetworks. Once you visit, you will always be back for more. eCinemaBoston.com.
Subject Cinema. Drive me a summer. T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
You've been to the drive-in once in your life.
Once.
And you were too little to remember. Did you visit the snack bar?
Nope.
Well,
I didn't get out of the car.
Oh, okay, see.
I don't even remember if my parents got out of the car. They had to have got out of the car at some point.
Not necessarily.
I can't see my parents not getting at least a drink or a snack or something.
Maybe they brought it with them.
Well, I suppose.
Which you're not supposed to do,
well,
by the way. We want to discourage that.
Yeah. I can't see either of my parents doing that.
Concession stands, otherwise known as snack bars, also, are the lifeblood of a drive-in theater. And most of the time now, you can, in addition to getting food, concessions and stuff, they also, some of them sell merchandise for the drive-in as an extra incentive.
Hats, stuff like that.
But
stuff you can use to advertise your love for the theater, which is a great idea.
Yep. Not very many of them still have some of the goofy stuff that they used to sell. I mean, in some places, I think they are still for sale. But anyone remember, we've had a commercial running for it on the intermission thing a couple of times, a drizzle guard?
I don't
either. Drizzle guard was this little piece of plastic sheeting that you would put over your windshield, and it would sit on these two little stands in front so that it would be, you could enjoy your movie regardless of rain.
Yeah. Can I ask a dumb question?
Sure.
What kind of a nitwit goes to the drive-in in the rain? I didn't think most drive-ins ran when it rained.
Yeah, they run no rain or shine usually.
Oh.
And a lot of them run in the wintertime, too, in the northern climates where they have heaters and stuff. Or did. Drizzle Guard was one of them. Then they had the PIC, P-I-C.
Yep.
Which was the little, what is now most people would recognize as a Raid mosquito coil.
Yep.
To keep mosquitoes away.
It was a thing you took this little, it looked like a little swirly-doo kind of a thing. And you lit it, and the smoke, it wouldn't, burn, catch on fire.
No, it's like an incense.
Yeah, it would burn very slowly, smoke into the air that was supposed to keep the mosquitoes away.
Right.
I used to see those all the time when we would go up to New Hampshire.
Well, they must work because they're still around. You can still buy them.
When we would go up to visit my aunt up in New Hampshire, they would have those outside for people that didn't want to, F around with bug lights or off, because let's face it, off, I don't know if it still does, but that stuff used to reek.
Yeah, it did.
It really did.
Now they have unscented. I don't know how unscented it is. But the best part about the snack bar was going in and opening the door. And you could smell all
everything.
The food. Mostly popcorn. But in later days, you would smell occasionally nachos being prepared. Or if they had a larger array of stuff, possibly hamburgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches.
Pizza?
Pizza. Barbecue beef or barbecued pork sandwiches.
Yeah, that seems to be more of a southern thing where barbecue is, much more popular and people actually know what they're doing with
Nowadays,
it. Nowadays,
some drive-ins actually offer beer and wine during the first show only.
Yep.
Minden is like that. And they have just an array of crazy stuff.
Yeah, and also the stuff that you'd normally think of when you go to a drive-in, popcorn, candy, all different kinds of candy.
Fanta orange, too.
Yeah, soda.
I love that jingle. I'm sorry.
Ice cream. Some places would have ice cream soft serve or,
or Eskimo pie.
Eskimo pies or Hoodsie cups. Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if the places up here sold Hoodsie cups. Everybody loved Hoodsie cups when I was a kid.
For those of you outside of this, it'd be probably a local dairy. They're little cups of ice cream, and they're usually under your local dairy's brand.
Yeah.
In Ohio, they were velvet ice cream.
They were they were chocolate on one side and vanilla on the other side, and they came with a little wooden spoon.
Yeah. I don't remember ever having half and half. I mean, the ones that they sold at theaters and stuff in Ohio were vanilla or chocolate or strawberry. They didn't usually have
Really?
a Neapolitan or something.
No,
like
they
that.
weren't Neapolitan. They were just chocolate
Yeah.
or vanilla. That was it.
And they had one that was like they also sold like small caramel sundaes at one point under the brand name Moose, Moose.
But like I said, I don't really remember. I mean, like I said, my parents must have gone to get a drink or something. But all I remember from the theater, from my experience at the drive-in, was the fact that there was a swing set and slides and stuff, and my mother was like, "You are not playing with those."
I never did either. I was
You don't know. You don't know any of those kids.
Mom and Frank always had a way of parking near the snack bar. We were usually right next to it or right in front of it, so because we needed close proximity to the bathrooms, and you needed close proximity to food.
Right.
And we rarely made our own food when we went. We did occasionally. We'd make our own popcorn, but then we'd go in and get drinks and candy there.
Right.
To help cut the wound because it was a budget issue.
When we got something weird on our cable system, which I don't think we do anymore.
No, we don't. But they are available online.
Yeah, they would show. One of the things they would show would be the countdowns and the things that they had available.
The stuff you're hearing in our intermission stuff, yeah.
Yeah, at drive-ins. And like I mentioned, I mean, some of them were obviously drive-ins in the South because they would advertise, like, pulled pork sandwiches.
Smithfield baked ham.
Barbecue and stuff like that. And I was like, what?
Well, I grew up in two basic drive-ins when I was going. There was the Knox Auto Theater in Mount Vernon, Ohio, and there was the Valley Drive-In in Newark, Ohio. We lived in Utica, which was 13 miles either side of both cities, so we could go to either one of them. Mm-hmm. Occasionally, we'd go out to the Heath out on the other side of Newark, but only once or twice. And I remember they had basic snack bars at the time.
Right.
When I was a kid, they would just have, you had your basic popcorn. They added Buttercup later on where they added the fresh butter to it. They had all the different types of sodas. But I remember, most importantly for me, when I was, I believe it was the first weekend I saw stuff. It must have been 1972. The Valley Drive-In Theater began offering ices. This was brand new at the time.
Oh, you must have been in seventh heaven.
Well, I like Slurpees better because there's actually more to them. But the ices, which are so full of air, we have ices now at Showcase Cinemas. They have them. When you can buy a Slurpee, a full giant Slurpee for $2.10, and you get an icy half that size at Showcase for $6, I don't particularly go for the ices at the cinema anymore. But it's I was in heaven. Cherry and blue raspberry flavored. And at the time they were $2 and it was expensive because you could get one at this convenience store just down the street for 35 cents. But, I had to have an icy. I want an icy. And the one up in Knox, up in Mount Vernon, I think they were the ones that had the Chili Willies, which were the slushies. Mm-hmm. So, a little bit different. Those all came to be. Now when we went back in the 80s to local drive-in snack bars, they'd added nachos. They'd added more sophisticated sandwiches,
pretzels.
Pizzas, hot pretzels. None of that was there when I was a kid.
Right. Well, people's tastes evolve, and they also feel like, well, if I'm going to be out, I better get a good bargain for my, Well,
a lot of snack bars offer decent meals now.
Yeah, they do.
Because the drive-ins, for the most part, the drive-ins and the indoor theaters are a little different because while concessions help sustain the drive-ins, a lot of them know that they make money. They don't make so much money from the price to get in, but they get the goodwill of the people, and it's word of mouth, and it keeps it going. Mm-hmm. So people come in, but they do make a lot of money at the concessions. And I mean, the Menden twin has a gourmet scat bar.
Yeah,
they have guacamole. They have all kinds of crazy stuff,
which makes perfect sense since it's owned by the Andelman brothers.
Andelman brothers are the progenitors of the Phantom Gourmet.
Yeah, they should know
here
good
in the
food.
Northeast.
They've been doing that show for years. They know what's good food.
Yeah, and they bought that drive-in 3 years ago, and I
think it's been longer than that.
Has it been? It was sometime after 2010, but I know it was sometime this decade that they bought it. And the snack bar is like all these gourmet foods as well as regular stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to the theater anymore, I don't do popcorn.
No,
Showcases popcorn upsets my stomach. And I think it's because they use coconut oil, and I'm not really fond of coconut oil. It tends to coat your tongue, and then after although I sometimes get kind of queasy no matter what I eat at Showcase. So maybe it's the water over there. Something's treated in the water that's mixed in the sodas, and maybe it's in the butter too. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I always thought it would be a cool idea. And some theaters actually started doing this. You get this sandpaper-like stuff called flavor toppers. Which is, Kim loves to put that stuff on her popcorn. I'm like, it's like eating sand. They have flavor. It is, but it's like eating sand.
I don't
It's
think
gritty and disgusting. But they do have, some theaters are now offering butter buds, which are the little packets of shaved butter that you sprinkle over the popcorn and it instantly melts.
Mm-hmm.
Adding butter to the popcorn. And I think that's brilliant, because what you get when you ask for butter on your popcorn isn't really butter. It's butter-flavored oil.
Yep.
So you're putting oil in you're eating vegetable oil flavored like butter as your butter topping. And, I mean, there are places that do real butter.
Yeah, there are.
The Kendall Square does real butter. The Brattle does real butter.
Yep.
I don't know about
I'm
Coolidge
sure
Corner.
I'm sure a lot of the
Most of the ones that do real butter.
The drive-ins do real butter.
Some of them do, actually. The ones I've looked at. Most of the places around here, though, that do real butter are the art house films and the
Mm-hmm.
repertory art houses and the repertory houses.
Yep.
So not like the big chains. And I don't get the whole deal of the butter the popcorn yourself.
Well, you know how much butter you like.
You do, but you have. I'm sorry. If I pay for concessions, it, to me, seems like part of the concessionaire's job to add the butter to the popcorn. Whenever we go to AMC, Boston Common, or Jordan's IMAX, they have a bar where you have a butter dispenser. And it is always a freaking mess. You're going to get it all over your clothes. I have gotten it on my clothes because it's all, you can't put your popcorn down to get butter because there's butter everywhere.
That's true.
And you get it on your clothes. Jordan's is really bad about that. And Jordan's doesn't primarily sell the best popcorn anyway. Half the time it's been chunked up into little tiny itty bitty baby popcorn. Pascal talk, if you're familiar with Rose's Rose. What do you guys think of are the best concessions out there? We'd like you to tell us by going to subjectcinema.com and using our speak pipe about your drive-in memories. Or you can shoot us a line at subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com, and we will read your talk about concessions right here on a very near future show.
We sure will.
The last reel.
It's coming.
It is.
And we knew it would be coming. And we should have known it would be coming a few weeks ago, but we didn't see through the clues. It's finally happened, folks. There will be a female doctor.
Yes.
Jodie Whittaker of Attack the Block will be the 13th Doctor in the long-running BBC science fiction classic Doctor Who.
Woohoo!
She will make her first appearance at the end of the Christmas episode and take over full-time from current Doctor Peter Capaldi after 3 seasons on the show.
Yep.
Jodie first came to our attention in Attack the Block. That movie has spawned big or semi-big careers for everybody practically. Franz Drama is on Heroes of Tomorrow here in America as Firestorm. He is there's this guy named John Boyega who's in this space thing, Star Wars something, and also and also the star.
Get it right.
I did Star Wars something. And also Catherine Bigelow's new film, Detroit. He plays Finn in Star Wars, the
Force Awakens.
And
will
in the
be
next
seen
two.
in Star Wars The Last Jedi.
And the final film.
That title scares me.
Plus, it also, Alex Esmail was, who played, the motor mouth of that movie. It was in our Rising Stars list, as was John Boyega a few years ago, and continues to do all kinds of films in England. But Jodie, she played the nurse in that this street gang, this kids thug gang, got in trouble with this alien film, and
it's an alien invasion movie that you've never seen before.
If you've never seen Attack the Block, you need to.
Really?
It's hilariously funny. It's how to make a real good, funny horror film.
Mm-hmm.
And it is.
It's going to be really interesting because she actually has ties with Doctor Who already in the fact that Jodie has appeared on a BBC drama called Broadchurch with
David Tennant.
With David
Tennant.
Former
Doctor, yeah.
Yes, who played the 10th Doctor. She's a wonderful actress. As TC mentioned, the Christmas special is going to be Peter Capaldi's Doctor's Swan Song, and we will also be getting an appearance in that episode by David Bradley, who is going to be appearing as the first Doctor.
David Bradley played that role for the first time in last year's the 50th anniversary special, and did a good job of it. David Bradley, of course, best known for the Harry Potter movies, right, as Filch.
Yes,
and did a great job. But I love Jodie. I'm still not feeling the whole idea of whether or not a female doctor is going to work. There are all kinds of nasty things already being said online.
Yes,
but
to those people,
don't be mean. Go ahead and say something, but don't be mean.
To those people, build a bridge and get over it.
Thank you. Because of Jodie's presence, it interests me for the first time. Because I loved her in Attack the Block.
Yes.
I've loved her in a couple other things I saw. So this is going to be interesting, and that was a heck of an announcement from the people at BBC.
I would like to make a statement on this as well. Not being the enormous Doctor Who fan that TC is.
Classic. I'm not that big of I don't really follow the new one.
Okay, fine. Y'all know I'm
a Colin Baker fan.
Y'all know I'm a longtime wrestling fan, so excuse me, pardon me, Daniel Bryan, I'm about to rip off your gimmick. Yes, 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 I am beyond excited. I love Jodie. I cannot wait to see a female doctor. This is going to rock.
So congratulations, Jodie Whittaker. We're looking forward to your take on the Gallifreyan Time Lady, I would think it would be in this case.
Or Time Person.
Time Person. No, they've always referred to them as Time Ladies or Time Lords. So she's going to be a Time Lady now instead of a Time Lord.
Mrs. Lady, Time Lady.
Wouldn't that be a Time Lord Lady?
No.
And that's the last reel for this week. Well, been an interesting look at biker films.
Yeah.
And a great announcement there at the end of the show.
I think so, too.
And, by the way, I want to correct the address, 960 Portland, Maine, 960 Portland Road in Saco, Maine, for the Saco Drive-In. Got it wrong on the end of that. We're still only about halfway through our great drive-in summer season, and we want you to give us your drive-in memories. You can write to us at subjectcinema@PNRNetworks.com. You can use our speak pipe. Go to subjectcinema.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and click if you got a microphone on your computer, or you can use your phone, and give us up to 5 minutes of your dialogue. We'll play it right here on the show. I'm not sure where we're going next week. We'll got another topic that we'll be talking about drive-in fare. I think we should probably touch the rush of bad Japanese stuff that came in the late 60s and early 70s.
Maybe.
And we should do
we
others.
should maybe look at the Euro spy movies.
The Euro spy movies. We'll be hitting them all this summer. We want to apologize. We had a transportation issue this past week, which prevented us from getting up the debut of The Real Recipe, which will be coming this Thursday. It is our summer replacement for Front Row 5 and 10, all about food in the movies. And we've got some great stuff lined up for you, and we hope you'll check it out. Apologies for being late again, but it will be up this Thursday evening with our look at food and the movies.
Yep.
We'll be doing a movie each week, a narrative and a documentary, plus commentary on other stuff. And this week we've got a Cavebabble Eats Odd Things from our friends at Cavebabble, Eric and Valerie Lyon, and all kinds of things on the premiere. So please check it out. Subject Cinemas, The Real Recipe, premiering Thursday as we do this. Also, you have got to get your Platinum Roses Garden summer specials going.
Platinum Roses Garden is going to come back at some point during the summer. I'm sorry. I'm going to be looking at fan fiction, talking about certain supernatural pieces of fan fiction that I like, that if you haven't read, that you'd like to check out. And I'm also going to, the reason I haven't done anything yet is because I'm compiling a list of...
oh, God, a list?
Yes.
Oh, you're going to be in for a treat. Her lists are always long and fun.
That's what she said. Anyway.
But I'm Chang.
Hey-o! I'm going to be looking at, besides Supernatural, I'm going to be looking at other genres that I read a lot of fanfic in, including The Avengers, Sherlock, a lot of comic stuff. Because there's a lot of great fic out there, besides stuff that's based specifically on the shows. You know, there's crossover fics, there's crack fics, there's fix-it fics, all kinds of crazy stuff. And hopefully I will get that done in a couple of weeks, and you can check me out over at PlatinumRosesGarden.com.
What's a fix-it fix?
Is
that like with Fix It for Felix and Wreck-It Ralph?
A fix-it fic is when you see a movie or an episode
that
of a TV...
you don't like and you fix it.
And you're like, well, screw that, I could do that better, you know.
You know, it's hard to believe you've been doing this show for almost 10 years. And when you first started this show, you weren't just a supernatural show. You did CSI, you did a book of the week, you did a whole bunch of stuff. I think the way that it is now, your fans have really, like, glommed onto it and love it.
I would also like to, real quick out there, hey to everybody who's at the Supernatural Con in Chicago. I hope everybody has a great time.
Because she can't do it because her show's on hiatus.
Coming up this week also is San Diego Comic-Con, which is totally exciting. I hope everybody oh, shut up. You're just being that way because we're not there.
We'll have a Comic-Con special next week.
Because we're broke.
I'm not the one that wants to go. You're always the one that wants to go.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to deal with it because you hate huge crowds.
I do, and I can't do any good cosplay besides Mrs. Claus. That's pretty much the only thing I'm built for.
No!
Other than maybe like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Oh, stop.
Trust me.
I think you'd make a sexy Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Trust me. Nobody wants to see this dressed as Poison Ivy. Nobody.
I'm going to get hit for this. You could do Mrs. Butterworth. But you'd be so tasty, maple flavored and delicious.
I'm going to pick this mouse up in a second.
That's actually more appropriate for Electric Daisy Carnival than Comic-Con.
Quit while you're behind.
Anyway, Cavebabble with Eric and Valerie Lyon every week. Cavebabble.com. Great commentary on on movies, TV, food, and a lot more. Be sure to check it out. And Comic Grotto with Aunt Bee and Pee Wee. Comics in the movies, comics on television, and they mean comics, not comics like stand-up comics, comic movies, and comic TV shows, and comic books.
Yep.
All at comicgrotto.com. And they've already got a huge following in just the last month that they've started.
That's because they're great guys.
It is, and the show is fun, too. Lots of fun to listen to. We also have our midweek shows. 3-Minute Weekend and Tuesday Digidex. These shows last less than 10 minutes and run down the latest stuff coming out. 3-Minute Weekend will have all of the stuff coming to theaters, and Tuesday Digidex, all the stuff coming to home video.
And sooner or later, probably later, TC will put up another Catastrophe Vortex.
It is coming. I am working on it. I'm sorry I didn't get it done this week for the aforementioned transportation issues.
Yes.
Because I was going to do it that same night. I will try to have one up next weekend. I am moving it to Saturday.
Transportation issues is TC and Kim talk for We Hate the Tea.
Yes, we don't. It took us 2.5 hours to get home from work the other night. Normally it takes about an hour and 15 minutes. And because of that, by the time we got done with dinner, it was after 9 o'clock, and we didn't have time to do anything. So, apologies. And our AGT thing will return also. We've been recording that during the auditions because it's easier to fast scan through the crap. So, we'll bring that back shortly as well. In the meantime, we hope you're enjoying your summer, enjoying the drive-ins, And we want to hear from you. And most importantly, we could use your support. It's hard work putting the show together. It takes a lot of hours, a lot of manpower, and quite a bit of moolah. If you could be so kind as to join our Patreon supporters, we definitely appreciate it. It supports all of our shows and our sites at PNRNetworks.com, and we hope that you will be generous, but the minimum is $2 a month, and you get your name on the site, and you get credit on the show, and a lot more for each individual level that you go up to.
Mm-hmm.
So please take the time to check it out and donate, because it isn't just everybody else that needs to help out. It's you too. We could use every bit of support we can get.
Yep.
We know you love to listen. We hope that you'll become a patron and help us to spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
Patreon.com/popcorn PNR Networks.
Mm-hmm. I think that's it.
I think it's it too. Let's go. Vroom, vroom, vroom.
Beep, beep.
For Subject Cinema's Drive-In Summer, I'm Casey Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
And may we see you at the drive-in.
Bye.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNR Networks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2017 by PNR Networks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.